If you can use a computer, you can be a designer. If you can use a pencil, you can be a designer. If you can think, which is the fundamental thing, you really will be a designer. Very few of us don't know how to think. I don't know if I know how to think, but it is about ultimately problem solving. So the environment is the critical thing, and the person who comes to me, whose head is full of stuff, who sits down and says on a Monday morning, oh, I went to see a football match, and then the next weekend they come and say on Monday morning, we're all sitting down, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I baked and I found a new recipe. And the next Monday morning they come along and say, I went and I participated in some free-form arts festival, and then they come along and bring in a book of poetry they've written, and then they're doing stuff. They're just doing stuff. That's what I want.
A good professional interprets graphic design as a daily challenge to oneself. The sense that the focus of the professional's daily routine is on the little discoveries that become the center of his interest.
And I think the environment that you then need to be in, and I think this is a problem that our industry is in at the moment, we are very, very silo-based. We work all as graphic designers, or you might have a bit of a product design person working with you, but by and large, we're taught in the same way. We have the same design heroes, we go to the same exhibitions, we read the same magazines, and you know what? We all think, black is the new white, or we all think the same.
Really love what you do. I think if you love what you do, you can create a really strong portfolio. There are designers that are self-taught and they've been extremely successful. So I don't think it's an absolute necessity, but I do think it helps you. The other thing I think that university or college or degree course offers you is opportunities to come to events like this. It literally opens up a huge world, and connections are important. So I think that's where you gain a bit more expertise and knowledge of that kind of world.
Do you think does the industry judge designer depending on their degree?
I don't think so. I think it's talent now. What I've seen, especially since I teach advertising, they're looking for people that have talent or just a different point of view, a more individualistic point of view. But degrees are important, of course. I think today, educational systems are very sophisticated, very much up to date, and are training students to be full professionals, and also giving them the possibility for internships and ways to get into the business and to be social, so to speak, and get in there and get a job.
Do you think a graphic designer they need a degree to be working in the field?
No, I don't think so. I think it's maybe if you want, you can compare it to fashion design, because I have a lot of friends working as fashion designers, and they don't have any degree. And I think if you're talented enough, and maybe you have the chance to know somebody who's already in the business, you can work as a designer even if you're not having a diploma.
Would you say experience is more important than what you learn in school?
I think so. Of course it must be. It must be. What you learn in school can give you a good start. I hope it gives you a good start. But I really do. But when you get into a real job, you discover so much more. So much more. Oh, you know that anyway. That is natural. It's natural.
Is the design degree any important to you? Do you find it important
I think it's important to study because your years in the middle of other students and more inspiration. But I think it's not important to have a degree for technical skills, because in my education I didn't learn so much things about technical things. I think you can learn it by yourself, but the value of education is to mingle with students, with concepts, with other minds, and I think that's important. Yes.
Like Paul Belford, who was one of my creative directors, this is really hard. He never had a degree in graphic design. He studied microbiology or something. And Adrian Shaughnessy, one of the facilitators, he's self-taught. So I don't think you need a degree, but that's the norm nowadays.
Do you think industry will judge designer depending on the degree, on the education level? I'd like to say no, but I do think it's important. I don't think they look at the grade. But I do think they look at whether you do have a degree. If you don't have a degree, I think you need a really, really strong portfolio. I think the degree enables you to literally create a portfolio that is substantial enough to get employment.
In my whole career, I have never ever been asked the question, have you got a degree? And I've never been asked the other question is, what degree did you get? Never been asked. Never, ever, ever been asked. It's irrelevant.
The fee went up to £27,000 for 3 years for a degree.
Okay.
So do you think...
But
for the students here?
For Britain students or
yes.
for... Okay, yeah, I think it's very expensive because last year I tried to go to Reading University as well to study typography there, but it's way too expensive for me as German, and I think it's way too expensive as well for British students to pay. What is it?
27,000.
Way too much for a student.
I don't think it could be put at a cost. It might be a good investment. £27,000. Is that a year?
Yeah, no, that's for the whole degree.
Really?
Yeah, a UK student paying to get the degree.
Okay, how many years?
3 years.
3 years. Well, it's not too bad. And again, where I teach, it's a lot more expensive. In the United States, it's very expensive to go to school. I can't remember what our fees are. I think it's over $30,000 to $35,000 a year. And you go for 4 years, so that's over $120,000 to get an undergraduate degree.
In today's society, is it possible to be self-taught? Because some designers, they are self-taught, they haven't been to universities.
Yeah, it is. Much more so than ever, because you can go online, a complete beginner, and can pick up all kinds of stuff that relate to and spring from graphic design. We now have a serious problem with people working in springing from orthodox graphic design teaching. We are now being accompanied by hundreds of thousands of others who are amateur designers. Okay, they don't know everything we know, but they get on pretty well. We've got to deal with it, so we did.
If you're a self-taught designer, I think it's different because you're focusing only on things which seem to be important to you, and maybe there are some functions you'll never know because there is no teacher.
It doesn't really matter if university prepares you for the professional world. I think what matters is that it gives you the basis that will allow you not to get lost in the professional world. That's what I think.
What you have to do as someone who's coming for a job or trying to make a job, and that's what it's more about these days, you have to go to organisations and you've got to say to them, you don't even know what I can bring to your company, and I'm going to be amazing, I'm going to be fantastic, and if I'm not, then don't pay me anything. You know, you need to find people. If someone walked in my door and said, Mike, you know, I'm going to double your business and you'll just, and get you great work and da-da-da, and it's not going to cost you a penny, I'd say, come and have a chat.
A portfolio is more important than a degree?
More important. Not more important, as important. Yeah. So an employer will look at the degree and say, okay, this person went to a good university, I know that university it produces good students, but she's got a lousy portfolio, so I don't care. Somebody else will look at it and say, I don't know about that university, but this portfolio is great, I'll offer you a job. So it's a kind of, it kind of goes both ways.
Do universities form students for the professional world, like the industry world?
I think it depends on what kind of course you do, because some courses, the briefs are more about teaching you something and not necessarily about how it would be in real life. What I experienced in my course, because you have, for instance, you have 6 months to do a major project. If you start working somewhere, that you've got a week to do something. So I think those kind of the time-related things are very different at university than in real world. But I think you learn it fast enough when you start working somewhere in a couple of months. You learn it there.
Definitely, always good to do an internship while you're studying. Or that's what I did, and that helps you a lot to understand it or to get faster into the professional world.
Because interns get to work, they get proper projects. I mean, they're not the same responsibility as a grown-up designer, but they get to work, they don't do the coffee or clean the floors, they get to work in a proper team. So they need to have some sort of qualifications. Whether it's a diploma or not doesn't really matter.
Of that in our industry. And that's why Britain, and London in particular, is no longer, in my opinion, the best place in the whole world for design. It's certainly one of the best places, but it isn't the best. No, it used to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the place, and now it isn't. And the big debate that's happening in the industry now, particularly that people like me are asked to contribute to, is how can we make sure London, particularly London, stays as the world centre of design, where every country sends people to be trained in London, to work in London the best. I think your generation really have a massive responsibility. Each generation has a big responsibility, but with mine, design is now a mature industry, and I think that you are entering a world where you can make it whatever you want to make it, and what we were doing is not what you should be doing, absolutely.